Okay, let's begin with 76-year-old Richard Dreyfuss. He is in hot water with some fans after taking part in a question and answer session before a screening of Jaws at a theater in Massachusetts. Video from the beginning of the event shows him coming on stage wearing a dress and shaking his butt to Taylor Swift. He then reportedly went into a rant about transgender kids, saying parents shouldn't listen to their kids who say they are trans. He also allegedly said women are too passive to make big movies work, and took shots at both Barbra Streisand and Steven Spielberg. Now, some people online said that they walked out of the screening along with hundreds of others, but video of the end of the event does show Dreyfus getting cheered by those that are left in the crowd. The theater that hosted the Q&A posted an apology saying his comments were, quote, not in line with values of inclusivity and respect at the theater, but others are saying the media is twisting this and that Dreyfus was just sharing opinions that someone his age may hold. What do you think about this, Tori?
I loved Richard Dreyfuss. What about Bob? Close Encounters. Spielberg helped make his career. Jaws was a Spielberg film. I didn't know this side of him, but apparently there's some more smoke here, and I just want to give you guys some context. In 2023, he was really under fire for slamming when Oscar So White became a thing. They really tried to change that up in the past, and he said, this change that they're trying to do to add more diversity makes me want to vomit. That's a quote. He says, I don't think there's a minority or majority in the country that has to be catered to like that. He also loved, in 2023, Laurence Olivier's performance in blackface in Othello, saying, am I being told that I will never have a chance to play a black man? And finally, his son said, now you know why I refused to give him the password to his own Twitter account for a decade. Now, we don't know if he said these, we're getting these as alleged reports, but if he did, you're allowed to say that, but you're also allowed to have the consequences of, I'm not going to watch a Richard Dreyfuss film anytime soon, and his legacy has changed in my book. So that's what happens when you say stuff like that.
I've been going back and forth about this because this is a tough story because we don't have any direct quotes. But I think no matter what he said, I have an issue more about where he said it. I kind of started to think about, I don't like to look at the stories we do as just individual situations. So I started thinking about Harrison Butker last week in his comments at that conservative Catholic college in which he gave the commencement. And there, he was in a venue where people were mostly Catholic, mostly conservative, and were there to kind of hear that kind of commencement speech. I look at this screening for Jaws or this Q&A with Richard Dreyfuss about Jaws, people weren't there for that.
Right.
Are you legally allowed to express your opinion? Absolutely. Even if I totally disagree with it. But I feel like it's getting harder and harder to just find the things you love without the things that you're trying to get away from all the time, just still making their way in because it seems like it's constantly on people's minds.
I feel like this is a reflection of what's happening in the lives of a lot of people right now. I am a huge fan of the show Hacks on HBO. Jean Smart is the lead character, and she plays Deborah Vance, who is a female comedian of a certain age. And there is a part in it where all her career she has wanted to be accepted by this group of male comedians. And when she finally is invited into their inner layer, as if you will, she finds that she's become far more progressive than where they are, their humor, their comedy. And having to understand that people that she had revered and been so wanting to be accepted by, she had surpassed in terms of keeping up with what's happening in the now, and they hadn't. And I think a lot of people are finding themselves in those situations with people that they love or they, respected all these years, and maybe you did grow up with the same ideology, but somewhere along your journey you changed and other people didn't.
It feels like J.K. Rowling too to me. It just feels like when you said why not? No one asked for his opinion.
What if they did because it was a Q&A? Again, I agree with you.
Right.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here in a Q&A, especially if it's an hour long and people are asking questions that opens the door to such topics. Would you think of it differently, even if you disagree with his ideology?
Yes, because it's in the content. Now, he walked out in a dress and apparently had someone rip it off. You're coming in with some ideas of what you want to talk about. That's not organically coming in. Right. There's no need to do that. Now, I don't know. I don't know if he's
that is something, Tori, that you said I think is super interesting. Is everybody, because I think if you see yourself as a progressive, when somebody speaks on progressive ideology, you're like, I always liked Erica and everything she did, and I agree with her ideology. But is that same person ready to say, I really liked Erica and everything she did, but I totally disagree with her stance? Are we at that point where we are unable to separate the art from the artist?
I hope
because
not.
everything is so intensely personal now. It's hard to say that I would be able to follow an actor if I knew that they were homophobic. That would be a very that would create inner turmoil for me. So I don't know if I could do that, as progressive and forward-thinking as I think I am. I don't know if I could separate those two things.
Well, you can protect the right to speak it. You don't have to protect your right to believe it.
Right.
And if
not
that
like
tarnishes their image in your mind, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a case-by-case basis.
Totally.
Right.